Umetoka kupu.
Hey guys, what are you talking about? I cannot understand anything.
Huh?
I mean, what is all of this? This is what I call noise. We're not clearly understanding each other, which is exactly why I have my opinion on something. How about Africa coming together, speaking one language? Welcome to another edition of the 77%. This time, as we have talked about, we're talking about the possibility of Africa speaking one language. I mean, there are about 2,000 official languages on the continent. That's a lot of languages. How can we understand each other easily and do business? But hey, my opinion is that Africa should speak one language, but not Swahili, English, or French, or any other existing language. It should be a new language created from the scratch. I see people looking at me like I'm
You
crazy.
just put Kiswahili and English and French in the same bracket.
I'm just saying it's an existing language on the continent. We don't want that.
Kiswahili is an African language.
But guys, you know what? People have to know who you are in the first place. So let's introduce our 77%ers and then let the discussion begin.
If now you bow, never give another man. My name is Solomon Eko, and I'm from Nigeria. I speak Ibibio and Efik, which are my mother tongue. I also speak English, German, Yoruba, and little of Hausa.
Hi guys, my name is Tracy Kariuki. I am Kenyan, +254. I speak Kikuyu, which is my mother tongue, Swahili, English, and German.
Yeah, I'm Jean-Pierre Kandairagje from Burundi. I speak French, English, Kiswahili, and my mother language, Kirundi, and also German.
I'm Maxime Jofak from Cameroon, +237, and I speak English, French, German, plus my traditional language, Yemba.
So yeah, looks like we're all ready for a fight, hasn't it? What's your take? You are from Nigeria.
When you talk about a language, it's a fundamental element of every culture, and it's also part of identity. If you tell me I should drop my mother tongue and pick up Kiswahili because we are looking for a unified Africa, then I think you are already looking for trouble.
You seem to be disagreeing with something. What's your deal?
We have to promote one of the languages.
Against which ones?
Are in Africa.
Promote one against which ones?
My colleague here said about Kiswahili.
Yeah, so we are promoting Kiswahili against...
I could say about Kirundi, but Kirundi, it's not more representative as Kiswahili. Then I support Kiswahili also because it's a regional language for East Africa.
Language represents culture, and that is actually very important. That has to be preserved. And so, having to ask other people to actually take in a new language, which actually comes from another culture, actually is much more like an insult to a pride, which is not easy for every culture to take in. So if we take that and say, okay, instead of creating all the troubles and having to insult someone's pride and having to cause all the trouble, then we can just create a new language, which actually can be a combination of many other languages which have already been spoken before, and just like make it much more easier to be studied, to be learned, and to be brought up.
My proposal with keeping Swahili is a rise above ethnicity. It's a rise because my mother
Easier for you to say
Swahili.
because you speak Swahili, of course. I mean, it's very easy because you speak it and you're speaking with pride. Speak Swahili, the rest of Africa.
Not because I speak, but we need to find what can we identify with as an African culture.
So create a new language. So create a new language from the scratch. Doesn't it work out then?
We will go back to the same problem that even the Europeans had before in the creating of this language.
You're right, Tracy. Europe decided to do it many years ago, creating this language from the scratch, Esperantos, right? And it failed. So we're going to hear from a professor of linguistics. Mr. Demendo works with the University of Cologne. And here's him trying to explain why the language failed in Europe.
Many people
have a close affinity with the language they speak. It's part of their social identity, and in a world where borders are disappearing, this may be one of the things that you want to stick to. It still identifies you as it's an emblematic feature.
Okay, thank you, Professor. But I mean, guys, the fact that Europe tried and it failed doesn't mean it's going to fail in Africa if we actually create a new language. What do you think?
I think there's no point even trying it.
Oh, so you've just shut it down?
Yeah, and I have my reasons for that.
Okay.
Going back to the time of our ancestors.
Oh, that's way back.
Yeah, way back. We've always had multiple languages.
So your point is, don't even start a new language?
There's no point, because I don't think that is the key to Africa's unity.
I think also there is no need to create any new languages for Africa.
So you change your mind?
There is no need.
He was always
A new one. We have to promote one of African language.
Don't you think there's actually enough that bonds us together to start a new language?
I mean, I think you're the only one supporting me now, so I mean...
There should be enough that we need to work and have to do together to say we need to learn a language together.
We actually spoke to Dr. Innocent Fassi from Cameroon. He's also an expert when it comes to linguistics. So we basically asked him, is that possible to create a new language from the scratch and speak it together as Africans?
It's not impossible, but it will be very difficult because the cultural aspect of language makes that people want to identify. People do not just communicate messages, but they also communicate their inner self through language. And to have a language that all Africans, irrespective of their origin, identify with will be very tricky.
Identify with will be quite tricky.
Okay, so Professor, we get you, but are you then saying we should forget the dream, the possibility of Africa speaking one language?
Instead of having one lingua franca, we have many lingua francas. We take, for instance, one from DR Congo down to South Africa, and then Central, West and East Africa one, and then Northern Africa one. We then have 3 lingua francas that can be used, and they are talked everywhere throughout Africa. All these 3 languages. Therefore, Africans will feel more united.
You guys heard from the professor. So we're talking about one language being created or an existing language. But he says what? 3 or 4 different languages on the continent. What do you make of that?
4 languages in Africa, I think it's a good idea.
4 main languages?
For the first step, it's a good idea, but which is, what is the aim? The aim is to get one.
Okay.
Which will be Kiswahili.
Tracy, come in here.
I don't even know why we're discussing this up to this extent, because I agree with what the professor is saying to an extent, but I can see where his logic is coming from. But again, we run the trouble of going back again into regional cocoons. We might run the problem of going to either Francophone or Anglophone again.
So better a new one, as you say.
Thank you.
So Tracy finally agrees that then it's better to create a new one. Great.
So what I'm saying, starting with what we already have, because we have Mozambique already speaking Swahili, some parts of Namibia also, some parts but not all, speaking Swahili. And already SADC has adopted Swahili as part of its official languages. So it's so easy to move from the south. We already have East Africa on board, and the central with DRC, Kinshasa, to move to the west. And I know the question...
Good luck with the West. I'm not even going to... Good luck with West Africa and North Africa. But you know what? Let's just let the people watching us now also be a part of this. So you've been following this debate, and I'm not sure whose side you're on or exactly what your thoughts are. We can only know if you... Yeah, Tracy thinks you're on her side. I don't know. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of Kiswahili speakers, on this particular chat. But just do exactly that. Just push your comments or your thoughts on Africa speaking one language, especially creating a whole new language on its own. Do you think it should be a whole new one, or should we already adapt an already existing language? Let's have your thoughts on the page.
Amka hivi veti. Ambi tunahitaji.
Guys, I have a headache. Minyu won kasa, won't take. Tibia me kasa, samike bia won't take. Aha. Now figure out exactly what I said.
One language or not, one Africa.